Hello everyone, Kirkwulf here, and today join me on this special trip down memory lane where we'll be checking out my old Dragon Ball Z toys. Now it goes without saying that Dragon Ball Z has been one of the most influential pieces of media to affect my life. Personally, it was my absolute favorite thing growing up, and because of that, of course, being at the peak of its popularity back then, there were a large series of action figures, toys, and vehicles to go along with the show. And it made sense at the time considering the show had different transformations and different versions of different characters and things like that. So over the years, I had collected a very, very large collection of figures that I'm going to go ahead and share with you today to kind of go down a trip down memory lane. Now the reason why is that ultimately I am going to probably be selling these. The main reason is that I don't have space for them, and as much as I love them and I do have very fond memories, there's not really a point of me keeping around all of these figures if I could give it to someone that actually would use them or repurpose them or collect them to have them rather than just like sitting in a box. No real particular order of these figures. I'm just kind of gonna go through them one by one as we have them here. And yeah, let's get into it. This is a Super Saiyan Goku figure with the giant blast ball, and when you press its back button, it makes the sound, it makes the beam. One thing that always kind of bugged me is that he's doing the Kamehameha position, but it's not blue like the Kamehameha was, though it was originally yellow. From what I remember, there were a couple of figures in this series. I remember the Vegeta one and the Trunks one were pretty cool, and I don't remember if there was a Gohan or a Piccolo. But this is just one of the many unique figures that we had during the time, and I forget if it was from Jakks Pacific or maybe it was Mattel that we have at the time. Of course, these figures look nothing like the fantastic ones that we have from SH Figure Arts nowadays, but you gotta remember, this was pretty neat at the time. I like the yellow hair, but Goku sure has a weird looking face. Goku is always my favorite character, so you'll notice I do have a lot of Goku figures, but this one is particularly interesting. Now, you may not ever think that during the show there was any point that Goku had angel wings, though he does die a couple of times. I believe this is based off of art from Akira Toriyama, where Goku was like flying off into heaven, and I guess they made an action figure of that. I also remember that back in the day, for the Legacy of Goku 1 video game, that if you were to die in that game, because you only played as Goku in the first one, this would be the pose like this is what you would see when you would die with the giant angel wings. The figure itself is okay. You know, Goku is smiling. Goku's kind of happy. You know, happy to be dead. The halo does pop off, so you don't have to keep it on. But it does look kind of goofy with just the angel wings. It's a neat piece of Dragon Ball Z history, but I really don't think the figure is like super fantastic because the wings kind of stop it from being more posable because we have these big pieces of plastic stopping any real leg movement, but still kind of neat. Next one that we have for Goku is Kid Goku. There were a series of Dragon Ball figures that were released. This is not one of the original ones. This is a later one in the series. I used to have a Dragon Ball Krillin, but I guess he just got lost to the sands of time. But this is Goku from his original outfit. Kind of a goofy looking face there. But of course he does have his tail. And the articulation for the kid figures of Dragon Ball were kind of weird, where instead of going out, they just kind of like flex in like a different angle. So they don't go straight, they kind of go to the side, but you know, was what we had at the time. Now in terms of vehicles, Dragon Ball figures always came with a large amount of vehicles. Now if I remember correctly, this particular vehicle came with Krillin, but this is Capsule 991, actually used within the series, although not directly piloted by Goku or Krillin. This is a very tiny figure holder, really meant for, you know, a small figure like this, and really Krillin, because he had no hair, he was easier to fit. Other than that, though, you know, it was a neat little figure for those big collectors of Dragon Ball. The bottoms do pop out for like the landing gear, and I don't think the battery still works. Yeah, the battery's dead, unfortunately, but it'll of course make lights that go meow as you're kind of flying across. There were a huge number of these, and I amassed a little bit of a collection. Kind of get into some of the interesting figures that came with that, but yeah, there you go. The only other Dragon Ball figure that I had is General Blue, that came with a 2-pack with the Goku figure. Again, even though this is an adult, still has that weird leg thing where like they don't quite go straight, but they kind of go out. And what was weird is that like the creases on his pants don't really form good looking lines if the figure isn't like in a standing position. So You know, it's kind of a neat character, you know, if you're a big fan of General Blue, but not really the best figure from what I have. Don't really remember playing with this all that often. And you'll see too as you go through the video, you know, the figures that I played with the most are like beaten and you know, scratched up. I was a kid. What else was I supposed to do with my favorite toys? But there we go. We got General Blue. And a little bit of a detour. This is Bulma. I don't remember why I got this particular figure. She's not particularly great. Very, very poor movement. Like legs really don't move at all. The hands barely move. This is specifically Bulma from Dragon Ball Z. I guess you could kind of position her to give Vegeta a slap. But beyond that, you know, there's not really a lot of articulation. I never owned Bulma from Dragon Ball. If I remember correctly, those figures were a lot nicer because they could actually move. But yeah, there you go. Tiny little Bulma. Speaking of Bulma, we have a capsule. I actually saw some of these a lot smaller, of course, at Hot Topic. Not this exact model, but the capsules as little keychains. This is actually a capsule that would contain a figure. I think the figure I had was Master Roshi. So unfortunately I don't have that. I just had the capsule. But I remember that I would watch episodes of classic Dragon Ball, and anytime a capsule would get used, I would, you know, throw this and be like, yeah, go capsule. It was just such a neat idea of having, you know, portable vehicles and houses that I couldn't help but play along with the episode. I don't remember what capsule 1138 actually was. I don't remember. But yeah. And there were a series of these as well, but I'm pretty sure this one came with the Master Roshi. Now, believe it or not, I was not the biggest fan of Dragon Ball GT when it first came out. But one figure that I did get from my friend Brian is this really awesome Omega Shenron. I mean, this guy is huge. The one thing I never had the back spikes, but there were back spikes on this thing. It was dangerous. I mean, he's massive, really good articulation, especially for a GT figure. Dragon Ball GT came out in the West after Dragon Ball, like it did everywhere else, of course. So the figures had a little bit of time to get better. I always wanted figures of like Super Saiyan 4 Goku or Super Baby Vegeta, just because I thought they looked cool. Or like Super 17 was another one. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was another one. Figures like that and characters like that were really cool from GT, even though the series itself was really not so great. But yeah, this was the only GT figure that I ever actually owned was Omega Shenron. Going back to a little bit of a weird figure here. This is specifically Evil Boo. I don't remember if I ever had a Fat Majin Buu, and there's actually a defect on this one. If you look, on his right arm, the little dots that go on the outside that are like his pores or whatever are actually on the inside of the arm. So, you know, neat little piece of trivia there. I never liked this Evil Boo figure. He's just kind of gross looking, you know. He's just mean. Not a lot of articulation. He could kind of kick. The arms feel super, super frail. But, you know, I think I got him pretty cheap or on clearance because nobody else would want him. So, you know, I gave him a home and had some fun. I remember I used to have a Bobbity figure. I guess that got lost to the sands of time. Unfortunately, all the figures I remember are not here, so there are a couple of missing. So who knows where they are? I hope they're safe and happy. But yeah, this is definitely one figure that I never really got to play with all that much. Moving right along with our Majin Buu theme, this figure got quite a lot of love. Gohan Buu, or Buuhan, or however you want to call him. Notice the giant headpiece that is not really hindering his articulation at all, so that was neat. No leg joints, but he is able to kind of do a little bit of a kick. And of course, there are articulation in the arms as well. I got so much fun playing with the Super Buu figure, and that's because I had Vegito. I always wanted a Super Vegito or Super Saiyan Vegito figure. I just never had the time, or I never really found one. But I love this figure so much. I love its Halloween colors because it's black and orange. I like, you know, obviously it's a mix of Goku and Vegeta, and I took very good care of this one because the fringe here actually kept on. You'll notice some of these figures were a little fragile on like the fringe line for like the points of their hair, so some of them did unfortunately snap off and they look kind of gross now. But this is what they were at the time. So yeah, and I would just. And one of my favorite bits from Dragon Ball Z was when Buu turns Vegito into a jawbreaker. And then he proceeds to beat the shit out of him as a piece of candy. One of my favorite moments. The figure that I used to have was like a gummy kind of Super Buu. He was like really, really stretchy, but the problem is that he got kind of gross after a while. I don't have that one anymore. Speaking of figures that were my favorite, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Now this one was neat because its back hair spike you can kind of just press it, and it does like a little bit of a leg kick. Obviously, you know, the gears are a bit worn, so it looks like he's kind of like a dog panting, but this was one of my favorite figures to go and play with. You know, what I would do with these toys, I would set up like a tournament bracket where I would make like, you know, Frieza fight Piccolo, and then Gohan versus Cell, and 17 versus Goku or Vegeta, you know, things like that. And I would kind of have these big tournament brackets, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku was always the winner. It was always my favorite. You'll notice that the hair fringe part did snap off. Unfortunately, it was rather frail. I did have it glued on at one point, so there's kind of a glob of super glue on its head, but you know, unfortunately, I just couldn't keep it. Now, one interesting detail is it's really hard to see, but there's like blood specks. This is from the figure itself, so he's supposed to be like a beat up, bloody figure. I did not do that. You know, that's not my blood. It's not real blood, but it's just a detail. This came from the same set as that Super Boo, so I think they were Japanese, because I remember them having Japanese text on the box, and they always looked a little off in comparison. They were not knockoffs, because I did get them at a Kmart store specifically. So to my knowledge, they're not like a knockoff, but yeah, there you go, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Within that same series, and another one of my favorite figures was Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Now, this one kind of has like a waist where like you could twist it. There's like a spin attack kind of. Again, you know, these figures are a tad old. You got to be a little merciful here. I loved Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. I thought it was great to have, you know, 2 Super Saiyan 3 characters, and I would make them fight all different kinds of people. His face is kind of wonky, and he's really, really short, really poor points of articulation. So, you know, not the best action figure, but as a kid, didn't really matter to me. I had many fun hours playing with Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. We have a little Kid Buu. Now, Kid Buu at the time was a difficult figure because of his size. So really, he just kind of goes up, you know, rotates a little bit. Notice how particularly shiny this figure is too. I don't know where the shine comes from, but I guess it was just the kind of gloss they used to paint the figure. Obviously, I made Kid Buu like the strongest, and he would always fight Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and then Super Saiyan 3 Goku would win at the end, and just like in the anime. So I would always had a lot of fun. So didn't have the best articulation, but very, very well played. We have Frieza. Now, fun fact, now this is very clearly second form Frieza. I think we can all agree that. When I purchased this figure, I bought it from a website called the Z Store. Now, if you have any Dragon Ball Z VHS tapes like I do, you'll see trailers for this shop. It was like an online store where you can buy all things Dragon Ball Z. Like I remember I got like a 3D Trunks poster, a Cell Saga poster, a lot of things like that, and a bunch of figures that I would get would be from that website. Now, by the time that I got to the website, normally the best figures were gone, and after a certain point, it just went under because it got beat up by other things. But at the time, this was like one of the best things you can get, and you can only get it online. Now, another figure that came with it was this really dope Piccolo. So this is supposed to be like a fight series. Now, on the Z-Star website, this lists as third form Frieza. It listed it as third form Frieza, which is obviously not correct. And this Piccolo actually came with a hat that you could remove. Now, the Piccolo figure, I think, does look pretty good. It's got decent articulation with the legs. The arms did go out, but didn't really move too much. And the cape is kind of a solid piece, so you really lose a little bit of maneuverability. But a neat figure to go along with the Frieza fight. Now, the Frieza was not particularly great. Like, because of his giant shoulder pads here, the arms barely move. The legs did move pretty good, and the tail does move. I never tried popping it off, but I figure you always could. Now, what I would actually do later, as I actually got a better Piccolo figure, and I would just pop the hat off of this one, and we'll go ahead and get to that one later. But yep, there you go, Frieza and Piccolo. The figure from the Buu saga is Ultimate Gohan. Now, I know he looks like Yamcha here without his little hairpiece. Again, you know, the hairpiece kind of got lost in the sands of time. But again, another figure that I absolutely loved playing. I really did love adult Gohan within the series, and always made sure he fought Super Buu to actually beat him. You'll notice his hand is kind of cupped like this. This is because he came with the Z Sword. Now, this was not the right costume to come with the Z Sword. I understand that, but, you know, twas the time. And yeah, you know, decent articulation, good movement. Again, they all kind of have goofy, weird faces. I really like how the SH Figure Arts nowadays has like the removable face, so they look a lot better. But there you go, Ultimate Adult Gohan. And again, very weird shine on this one. Another one of my absolute favorite figures here was specifically Goku from the first fight with Raditz. Now this one did come in a series with other figures. So it did come with Raditz and Kid Gohan, which we'll get to in a second. But this was one of my favorite Goku figures just because of how jacked he was. I know he's kind of rocking the Tarzan thing here, and his gi piece kind of snapped off, but this was a figure that I loved to play with the most. Again, in my tournament, you know, this is the one that I would use where he was like fighting, and then he would get really beat, and then he would go Super Saiyan, and then I'd get the Super Saiyan figure, and the Super Saiyan figure would win. So it was an awful lot of fun that I would have with this one in particular. And of course, he did come with his son, little Angie Gohan with the 4-star Dragon Ball on top. Not really good articulation. The tail falls off pretty easy, which again, I guess technically makes sense. But, you know, there he is, little Kid Gohan. Now, the Raditz figure, I thought, at the time was also pretty good. By today's standards, it's not really all that great, but there it is. You'll see the scouter is not really clear. It's a painted piece. His hair is hollow, like I could fit my hand back here. You know, not really the best figure. I mean, who the hell really cared about Raditz anyway? But, you know, I really liked this figure at the time. I always really liked the look of the Saiyans with the pointed Saiyan armor. His tail does rotate around a bit, and it does have pretty decent articulation, even with the shoulder pads. One great memory that I had from when I was a kid was my friend came over one night, and you know, we wanted to play with Dragon Ball Z figures. So I actually put up a DVD of the first couple episodes, and we acted out the first episodes of Dragon Ball with the action figures. So he was Piccolo, and I was Goku, and it was just a lot of fun. You know, it's kind of like not making a stop motion movie, but in that kind of vein of like, special beam cannon, and we had so much fun. You know, we would have done the whole series if we had the figures and the time to, but that's always a memory that when I look at these figures, I get really happy. Getting into another figure that again was one of my favorites is Raccoon. Now this Raccoon figure is kind of weird. The armor pieces that he has don't really match how it looked in the show, like even when he got battle damaged. So I guess they were just trying like to do like a battle damaged look. Now one thing that's cool about this Raccoon is that there's a string on its back, and he goes oh, like a weird punchy attack. The Scouter was a lot higher quality than the Raditz one. It's actually clear, so you can see his eye, though it does look a bit doofy on the figure. It popped off really easily, so I always made sure to take good care to keep these pieces together so we didn't lose him. I would also reenact the Raccoon fight with Vegeta a lot, and then I would have, you know, Goku come in and beat him in one punch. So an awful lot of fun with the Raccoon figure. There was a Captain Ginyu that was released with the Raccoon figure as well that I just never got, but I remember that, but I remember these two specifically from that set. We got Goten. Now the Goten figure is actually, it came in a 2-pack. The Goten is not a very good figure at all. It is Super Saiyan, which is neat, but his legs don't really work too good, and he's very, very tiny and easy to break. So very, very fragile. Like, you know, novelty if you're a Goten fan. But the real winner of this 2-pack was Broly, the legendary Super Sandwich. Looking at this Broly, he is not really big. Like, he's about the same size as Goku, which doesn't really make sense for Broly. Like, anytime that we think of Broly, especially the Z variant, is, you know, massive, like, you know, 15 feet tall, can hold you with a hand and crush your skull. But it was still really cool to have this Broly figure. I guess technically it's based off of the second Broly movie where he's Super Saiyan for a bit. But if you look at his eyes, he's got the white angry eyes, so like it is supposed to be legendary Broly. This is one of the few figures that I had from the movies. Another series that I had, I forget what the name was, but they were giant. And it was like HAL Labs, I think, something like that. And there were these giant Dragon Ball figures, like highly detailed, not the best articulation, but they were giant. And I remember I had 3. I had Krillin with the spacesuit, I had Goku with the spacesuit, and then I had Metal Cooler with like the regenerating arm that's like showing the circuits as it's all regenerating. Unfortunately, as a kid, I didn't really appreciate them, so I did get rid of them at some point. Because I really didn't play with those figures because they were so giant, but if I can have them now and just kind of have them to sit, oh, they would look so good in a showcase. Definitely check out the HAL Labs Dragon Ball figures. They were really, really cool. Maybe, I forget, maybe the HAL Labs name isn't right. You can correct me in the comments, but yeah, they were awesome. They had ones for like Android 13, Broly, Trunks, Vegeta. There were some really, really, really cool ones out there. Speaking of Virginia, we've got Super Saiyan Virginia. Now here's a fun fact about this particular figure. This figure came with the Saiyan ship. Battery's dead. But the Saiyan ship was also one of my favorite toys. I mean, look at how gorgeous that... I mean, it's beat to hell because I played with it. But, like, it was really cool to, like, have a figure bend in and sit in the chair. And then, you know, the pod would close. And then you could pretend like, oh, the Saiyans are coming to Earth. I never had a Nappa action figure. See, with how popular Team 4-Star got, I always wanted a Nappa. And maybe I'll get the SH Figure Arts one day. But I never had enough figures to act out the arrival of the Saiyan saga in its entirety. I never had Nappa. And I would be able to get Raditz to fit within this sphere. But you had to be careful because if the figure was too big, it unfortunately wouldn't fit. Which is why this Vegeta is extra tiny. Now, one interesting bit about this Vegeta is that this Vegeta was actually a separate figure that you can buy on its own, but his Majin form. So it's kind of a ripoff that is the exact same character in the exact same mold, but the Majin one has a little M, and he also has like shinier gauntlets and stuff. One thing that I kind of liked back then too is that there would be figures where the Super Saiyan, I mean, it's hard to see, but these were like gold, like a dark gold. And you'll see with some of the other figures that I have that had the same kind of plastic or paint to them. But I always liked how these would make the Super Saiyans kind of stand out. Granted, the yellow would still look good. I mean, it doesn't age the best, but the yellow still is iconic. But I always loved that like gold sheen that they would have to Super Saiyan. Like it felt kind of regal, which would make sense for the Prince of Saiyans. The figure that I lost too is that it was Vegeta with drip, where he has like a black jacket and a tank top and like khaki pants. I forget what episode of Z he wore that, but I did have that figure, but the foot snapped off, and that was the end of that. So while I'm going through these figures, there were a couple of other ones that I used to have that that had like a lot more joints and would actually like have pieces of clothing that would like snap off. So I wonder if they're in a separate box or maybe they're lost to the sands of time as well. But I remember that I had an Ultimate Gohan that I would make Future Gohan because his arm kept coming off. So he'd be the one-armed Gohan, you know, fighting the android. But yeah, I obviously forget the name of those figures as well. But there were a bunch of those that I had too. We have everyone's favorite, Triclops, Tien Shinhan. Now, Tien's outfit is based off of his arrival in Majin Buu, which is anime only, believe it or not. And there was a cape that I used to have that would come with him as well that I just, again, lost to the sands of time. But I played with this figure a lot, especially when, like, I would reenact the Saiyan saga. Like, I would use that Ultimate Gohan figure to be Yamcha, and I have a Krillin as well. So, like, I would use these figures to kind of play them with different eras of time. But I always kind of liked the blue drip. I think the green is still iconic because it actually shows off his muscles. But I like how, I don't know. I like the blue. I like the blue. Speaking of the humans, this is another one of my favorite figures is Krillin. This is a really great figure. I like that his arms were kind of bent a little bit, so you could kind of have them wind up into a punch or do a clothesline or an elbow, which made sense too because he was short. The legs were really, really posable, and his face looked really, really good too. Like this particular figure got like the angry Dragon Ball Z style. You know, say what you want about Krillin sucking in Dragon Ball, but you know, as a support character, I mean, you want Krillin on your team. So many fights I would have Krillin be like the backup, and like I would have him get beat, and then Goku would go and then fight the bad guy. Awful lot of fun, and I went in with Krillin, and yeah, I'm glad to see him again. It's like seeing an old friend after many, many years. With Super Saiyan Gotenks, or maybe it was regular Gotenks, I don't remember, but one of them came with a Kamikaze Ghost. Now, what was neat about having the Dragon Ball figures with like the extra appendages that you can really act out the, you know, Super Ghost Kamikaze attack, and then I'd be like, meow, meow. That's like the ghost would come in and explode. Super Saiyan Gotenks I did not like as much as Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Not very posable, again, short character. His waistcloth snapped off, but it was nice to have when I would, you know, have them go through transformations. You know, I'd have Form 1, then 2, then 3. But I always really liked having the Super Ghost Kamikaze, and I like figures nowadays that actually come with these as well, just like a nice little extra piece. Have regular Gotenks. I liked the look of regular Gotenks with like the poly walnut hair. Again, pretty much the same, as not very posable as the others, and even worse off with the arms. Like he could pretty much do this and that's about it. Face is a little bit wonky, but you know, it's what I had at the time, and but I like how detailed the abs are. I mean, Jesus. You know, I never really liked Goten or Kid Trunks, but I always had a soft spot for Gotenks. Now, this Goku figure, interestingly enough, I got from the Afterlife Tournament saga when he fights Pikkon, you know, after he dies against Cell. Not a great figure. I appreciate that he's battle damaged and he has like cuts and bruises, but his face is just off and the hair was like too small somehow. The hands too, they were not in a fist shape, so like, you know, I could kind of do the Kamehameha pose, but again, from like a better angle, you know. Not my favorite figure, but you know, tis what I had. Kind of weird too that there's like these like ripped plastic bits trying to be a shirt, but he's still wearing his shirt, so I don't know where that came from. I always did want the Pikkon figure though. I always liked Pikkon. He was a cool dude, and you know, I know anime only, but would have been nice to see more of him. So there you go. You know, Dragon Ball is home to one of the best superheroes ever written into fiction, the Great Saiyaman. I really liked the idea of this figure. His head did pop off. I don't have the second head, unfortunately, but it was like the bandana that Gohan would wear, the do-rag that Gohan would wear. So that was kind of neat. You know, not very poseable, kind of a weird arm thing here. He kind of holds him down to his sides or up like this, so not super great. And the problem with these characters, like with these skirts, is that they don't really move much leg-wise. Definitely not a figure that I ever really played with. I just kind of had to have it, but I did always think the helmet was kind of neat. So there's the Great Saiyaman. I used to have a Perfect Cell figure that wasn't really good with very bad articulation, but in a different 2-pack, I actually got Imperfect Cell. With same thing with sharp tail. The tail was always bendable and always freaked me out because you know, you can make it stab another character and drain their life essence. This figure got an awful lot of playing, especially when I would use him to fight like Super Saiyan Vegeta or the upcoming figures that I'll show you in a moment. But very good articulation for the most part, kind of limited by his weird mouth crotch. But the arms were really good. He looked really buff, and you don't really see a lot of Imperfect Cell figures. So this was certainly a neat thing to have. Though I would have preferred to have kept the Perfect Cell or the First Form. You know, we really don't see too many of those. But First Form Cell is currently available from SH Figure Arts online, so you know, can always get that. But he actually came in a 2-pack with, again, Piccolo. Kind of weird that Piccolo kept getting put into 2-packs with the second form of villains. This Piccolo was my absolute favorite. He was so awesome. So this Piccolo had, the antennas unfortunately popped off, but he has this like rubber cape that you could pop off like this, and then boom, you know, your you know, whatever, Super Piccolo or whatever. What I would do is I took that hat from the other Piccolo figure, put it on him, and it looks so much better. So much better, and it doesn't pop out because the antennas pop. But then, you know, when I reenacted the Raditz fight with my friend, we could take off the cape and all that. So it really made playing with the toys a lot more fun because of the extra accessories we had there. But looking at the figure too, what's nice is that when you take off the cape, you actually see there's like battle damage and like cuts and rips in the clothing. So, you know, this figure was very, very well made, very, very well painted. And yeah, I got a lot of play out of Piccolo. Another very stumpy character we have, Oob, or the reincarnated version of Boo. Oob kind of got the shaft with GT. You know, I forget if I got him with something or another figure, I don't really remember, but, you know, there's Oob. Bad articulation. He has this weird half skirt, so like only one of his legs go up. Not a very great figure, but I would have loved to have Majub from GT. So the last couple of figures that we have here specifically go hand in hand with vehicles, but before we do that, I do have a couple of Dragon Balls from Namek. And I always kept the set. So some of these figures would come with 3 random Dragon Balls, and I actually did end up getting all 7. So each of these is the starred Dragon Balls, which I always kept those. And I always kept this so I wouldn't lose them in this tin of bubblegum that I got from a show called Butt Ugly Martians. I wish I still had those toys to show. Oh my God. The But Ugly Martians was, I don't remember it being a good show, but I liked it. I had like all three of like them and the mechs. It was a wild time, man. It was a wild time. Now, our first vehicle here, believe it or not, is a really good figure of Android 17. Good articulation. He has the gun, so I guess it's supposed to be like 17 from the future when he used a gun for some reason. Now, you might be thinking, Kirk, what the hell kind of contraption does he come with? He actually comes from this red ribbon suit from Dragon Ball, so he actually fits perfectly right in. And, yeah. There were, obviously the batteries are dead with this, but this got a lot of play. It was nice that you can hold it like this with your hand, so you could kind of, as if it had like a jet, using his jet booster on the back, be like, I had a lot of fun with this, believe it or not. And I actually did use the 17 figure when he would fight, you know, the imperfect Cell, and with the next one that I'll go ahead and show, which is my favorite set. He is, boys, the drink himself. Future Trunks. He looked great. He looked mean. He had like this glossy silver. I know the colors are kind of worn because of how much play they got, but this figure was great. And the best part, he came with the sword, which is so much awesome to have this figure and be like, oh, burning attack. Ah. Definitely a figure that I played with. One of the figures I played with the most. And that is, of course, in tandem with the Time Machine. Now, the Time Machine is, of course, iconic for Trunks. A neat little vehicle that fits him nicely. And for some reason, it did shoot out a dart, so, you know, this dart would come off. Don't really know if it can shoot necessarily anymore, but yeah, I can't really shoot anymore, but there we go. Trunks in the Time Machine. Super iconic, super awesome figure. I mean, just to have sit, it just looks great. Of course, the shell is all beat up because, you know, what can you, it's made of plastic, but I had an awful lot of fun with Trunks in the Time Machine. This figure and vehicle that we have is actually another Goku. Now, this Goku here does have the very nice golden Super Saiyan hair. I have to admit, it looks more brown now, but it was a lot shinier back then. And this is part of a two set, and I have both of the set, of Gohan and Goku, where they come with like a capsule vehicle. Goku came with capsule number 341. Again, this is more of a Dragon Ball vehicle, so I really don't know why this came with a Dragon Ball Z figure, but perfect Cell. I'm coming to get you, Majin Buu. I didn't really play with the vehicle as much, more so the figure, because the figure was pretty awesome. This is one of the first ones that I remember getting. Again, because of it had to hold the bars of the vehicle, it does have the Kamehameha hands, but no real articulation beyond that. The legs moved pretty good. Really, really nice leg articulation. So overall, the figure was really, really great. And the vehicle was just kind of a bonus, even though Goku really was the only one that could fit on it. Gohan. I forget the name of this thing, but I think Yamcha might have driven it. And I remember this would always pop out. But yeah, I remember Yamcha would ride this, and I actually really like this vehicle just for the look. I think the fact that it's brown and just kind of stands out. But yeah, this came with the Super Saiyan Gohan figure. Again, the gold sheen I always really, really liked, and it was great having this figure to fight Cell. But oh, geez, Dad, I'm coming to save you. We're really in for it now, Gohan. Again, one of those things where I really enjoyed playing with the figure more than the vehicle, but hey, it was really nice to have both. Keeping the trend of weird Gohan vehicles, we have this really weird Super Saiyan Gohan. I feel like now it's not really sticky, but it's gloss. It was always this weird gloss. I never really played with this figure. It's supposed to be like a Super Saiyan Gohan, but the colors are all off with the gi. The face is all kinds of messed up. I don't even think I have the vehicle anywhere. Unfortunately, this might also be lost to the sands of time. But, there's the Gohan figure. I never really played with him, but I kept him. And yeah, just like a very strange gloss. But yeah, not the best figure. Like very dark, very tan for no reason. This figure of Gohan was pretty awesome. Again, we see the golden hair. This is Super Saiyan 2 Gohan when he fought Majin Buu. So like after the tournament, and he got his Saiyaman suit blasted off. Now the hands don't move, unfortunately, so you can't really pose them. But I thought the figure itself was pretty nice, especially because Gohan looks so ripped in the black suit and the boots. Only thing I didn't like is that the hair popped off, and then his face is kind of messed up. He's kind of like a kind of face. But one memory that I have with this figure and his corresponding vehicle, I just saw something, and I'll share it in a moment. But one thing that I always remember with this figure, when I was a little kid, maybe like second grade or so, I got sick in the hospital during Thanksgiving, like really sick. And I had to be put in like a medical tent, like a breathing tent. So I was very, very sick. And my aunt was kind enough to go to my house and pick up some toys for me. So this is one of the ones that she brought. And I always remember playing with this in the hospital. And I always really appreciated that. Now the vehicle itself is, I believe you're gonna kill me for saying this, but it is capsule number 6-7. Yes, get the fucking 6-7 memes out now. And I know that because I wrote it down. But yeah, it does say 6-7 on the vehicle, so there you fucking go, you kids. But I always really enjoyed this figure, even though he wasn't really perfect and a little damaged, but I always had that special memory with him, so good to see him again too. And just weird that Gohan came with all these vehicles, like the dude could fly. And that's gonna bring us to the end of this particular video. I do have a couple of Dragon Balls. Now these Dragon Balls actually came with various figures that I don't think I have anymore. I found a rare gold one where it was Vegeta and Nappa landing on Earth when Nappa's like doing this and blows it up. There was a gold figure of that I had from these balls. I also had one of Goku holding Nappa like this. I had one of Goku chasing Bubbles the monkey. And I forget what the fourth one was, but these were a set. Kind of like a blind box, but I made sure that I did get the 4-star Dragon Ball. So just a couple of extra Dragon Balls to throw in there. There are some other toys from my childhood that I do want to go ahead and share as well. More so based around like DC and a couple of miscellaneous ones that may surprise you. But I will be making a video for that at some point. I want to kind of sell these first, and then we'll probably get into it from there. But yeah, thank you guys so very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane exploring some of these figures. I mean, they weren't always pretty, but they're what we had at the time, and they're not as glamorous as the SH Figure Arts, but they certainly got me through a lot, and my friends and I would play with them for hours and hours and hours. So an awful lot of time and an awful lot of love went into them, and knowing that I'm going to be kind of parting with them at some point, I really wanted to make this video not just to share, but to kind of remember myself. It's just like, oh, hey, I remember those. So yeah, so those are my Dragon Ball figures, and yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.